We on? Sweet. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to TUBBS. Starting a new series with a new teacher. I just got hat jacked. She just came up here and stole my hat. All right. Well then, so we're starting the book of Deuteronomy, which has 34 chapters. So you're going to be seeing a lot of me. No, it's not going to take 34 weeks because we're doing 3 chapters tonight. But before we get started, I want to open us up in a word of prayer. So, Lord, thank you for this place that you give us to come and study your word and grow closer to you. Please open our hearts and minds and just give us understanding so we can understand what we read, Lord, and help our hearts to be receptive to what you're trying to say to us today. So bless this time that we're about to spend together, and let's get into it. And I have a short video for you guys to see. TV turn off.
This is Spoken Gospel. We're dedicated to seeing Jesus in all of Scripture. In each episode, we see what's happening in a biblical text and how it sheds light on Jesus and his gospel. Let's jump in. Deuteronomy records Moses' last words to the people of Israel before they enter the Promised Land. It begins with Moses retelling the people's journey so far. Basically, in these 3 chapters, we get an overview of the whole book of Numbers. First, Moses recounts Israel's disobedience and destruction. God spoke to Israel at Mount Sinai, brought them on an 11-day journey to the border of the Promised Land, only to have them disobey and refuse to enter it. For this disobedience, God promises that the older generation will die in the wilderness, which they did. Next, Moses recounts Israel's obedience and victory. The turning point from one to the other is the death of the old generation and the coming up of the new. Unlike the older generation, these people obeyed the voice of God and won victory over their enemies. The force of the argument is palpable for a people about to enter the land their parents failed to enter by driving out the people their parents failed to drive out. By recounting the story, Moses is proving 2 points. 1, don't commit the mistakes of the past. And 2, remember how God has been faithful. How these 2 points go together gives us a firm grip on Deuteronomy's main message. Remembrance leads to obedience. If Israel remembers God's faithfulness, they will love him. If they love him, they will obey him. Remembering leads to loving. Loving leads to obeying. Remembering is so crucial because it is very close to the idea of believing. To remember God's past faithfulness is to believe in what he has done in the past, which causes faith in what he will do in the future. Jesus taught his disciples this same truth. This time, instead of God going before Israel into the Promised Land to prepare it for them, Jesus says that he is going to the house of God to prepare a place for us. And if they believed Jesus, then they would love him. And if they loved him, they would obey his commandments. How this works and how it applies to us is repeated all throughout the New Testament letters. Again and again, the New Testament tells us to remember what Jesus did on the cross. And then, on the basis of what he's done, we are given commands. The argument is identical. Jesus has rescued us and provided for us. If we remember what he has done, we will be so filled with love for him that we will happily obey whatever he commands. Remember the gospel, love Jesus, and obey. This is what Deuteronomy is here to teach us. I pray the Holy Spirit will give you eyes to see the God who shows us his past faithfulness to produce in us our present faith, and that you will see Jesus as the one who has accomplished everything fully in the past to create in us love and obedience in the present.
All right. Well, that was Deuteronomy 1 through 3. We can all go home now.
You ain't getting out that easy.
Oh, no. Yeah. No. So just to kind of set the scene here, the first 3 chapters really kind of covers Exodus and the book of Numbers. And this book was written around 1400 BC, during and following Exodus, written by Moses and some other unnamed scribes. It's going to cover the death of Moses not in chapters 1 through 3, but the book of Deuteronomy covers the death of Moses. Numbers ended with us in Moab, where the Jordan River flows into the Dead Sea, and this will be Deuteronomy's setting for the entire time they're there. And it's repetitive, but it's going to show the need for loyalty and law abidance, and we're going to see how that plays out for Israel. Yes. Law of God. Yeah. Well, because like in Numbers, they reiterated the law again and again and again, and Israel still made mistakes again and again and again. So let's get into it. I'm reading from the NASB, which is New American Standard. What we have up here is going to be ESV, so it'll be a little different, but they're so close to the same translation. All right. Chapter 1:1. These are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel across the Jordan in the wilderness, in the Arabah opposite of Suf, between Paran and Tophel, and Laban and Hazeroth and Dihazab. It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. In the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses spoke to the children of Israel according to all that the Lord had commanded him to give to them, after he had defeated Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth, and Edrei. So, like, you kind of start to see the distance they had to travel really wasn't that far if they could make it from Mount Sinai up to Kadesh in 11 days. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. We're going to just peel that gold star off and just replace it with a silver star.
No. Go all the way down to bronze.
Yep. New American Standard Version. All right. Yep. They're so close to the same translation, but there is a little bit of differences. Yeah. So verse 5, across the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moses undertook to expound this law, saying, the Lord our God spoke to us at Horeb, saying, you have stayed long enough at this mountain. Turn and set your journey, go to the hill country of the Amorites and to all their neighbors in Arabah, in the hill country and in the lowland, in the Negev, and by the seacoast, the land of the Canaanites and Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have placed the land before you. Go in and possess the land which your Lord swore to give to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and to them and their descendants after them. So there's the promise of go forth and take the land, which they're not going to do. Mm-hmm. So as the brother said off camera, the Euphrates River is the biggest river in the area, which is what makes this land so appealing for farmland and for animals and everything like that. But nowadays, the river's running dry, which can be tied to potentially end of days talk, whenever that happens. All right, verse 9. I spoke to you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear the burden of you alone. The Lord your God has multiplied you, and behold, you are this day like the stars of heaven in number. May the Lord your God, or may the Lord, the God of your fathers, increase you 1,000-fold more than you are, and bless you, just as he has promised you. How can I alone bear the load and burden of you and your strife? So this is where they're about to decide some rulers and kind of, some hierarchy, some people to hear cases. Choose wise and discerning and experienced men from your tribes, and I will appoint them to you as your heads. You answered me and said, the thing you have said to us to do is good. So I took the heads of your tribes, wise and experienced men, and appointed them heads over you, leaders of thousands and of hundreds, of fifties, of tens, and officers for your tribes. 16. Then I charged you with judges at that time, saying, hear the cases between your fellow countrymen and judge righteously between man and fellow countrymen, or the alien who is with him. You shall not show partiality in judgment. You shall hear the small and the great alike. You shall not fear man, for the judgment is God's. The case that is too hard for you, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it. I commanded you at that time all the things that you should do. So now I get some hierarchy going. So Moses, who has complained about the people, doesn't have to do it alone. All right, 19. Then we set out from Horeb, went through all the great and terrible wilderness which you saw on the way to the hill country of the Amorites, just as the Lord our God had commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord your God is about to give us. See, the Lord your God has placed the land before you. Go up and take possession, as the Lord of your fathers has spoken to you. Do not fear or be dismayed. So what happened in the book of Numbers right at this point? What happened in the book of Numbers right at this point? They're right on the edge of the promised land. What happened? Yep. How many spies? Mm-hmm. Yep. Vicky coming in clutch for the whole class. So yeah. So 10 spies went into the land. 10 spies went into the land and came back with a report. Or 12 spies, and 10 came back with a negative report, and 2 came back with a positive report. And the 2 spies that came back with a positive report were Joshua and Caleb. So of the entire older generation of the tribe of Israel, Joshua, Caleb, and Moses are going to be the only ones who survived that 40 years in the desert. All the older generation is going to die off. Then all of you approached me and said, let us send men before us, that they may search out the land for us and bring back word of the way which we should go up and the cities which we shall enter. The thing pleased me, and I took 12 of your men, one from each tribe. Then they turned and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. Then they took some of its fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down to us, and they brought back a report and said, it is a good land which the Lord our God is about to give us. Yet you were not willing to go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. And you grumbled in your tents and said, because the Lord hates us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt to deliver us to the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go up? Our brethren have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are bigger and taller than we. The cities are large and fortified to heaven. And besides, we saw the sons of Anakim there. Then I said to you, do not be shocked, nor fear them. The Lord your God, who goes before you, will himself fight on your behalf, just as he did for you in Egypt before your eyes, and in the wilderness where you saw how the Lord your God carried you, just as a man carries his son, in all the way which you have walked until you came to this place. So, sons of Anakin. Oh, yes. Well, it's kind of a contested subject. All right. So Brother James off camera says I should elaborate the sons of Anakin, which is kind of, it talks about the Nephilim, which is when the angels mated with the humans on earth and created the giants. which is still kind of hotly contested in Christian culture. But Fred says it is biblical, but it's not something that I personally have a deep understanding in, but it is something that has happened. But here's Israel grumbling. And keep in mind, these were the people that actually walked through the sea that Moses parted with the power of God. And they're still not believing that they could go into a country and take possession. Let's see, where was I? Wow. Fred, you have him trained. All right. 32. But for all this, you did not trust the Lord your God, who goes before you on your way to seek out a place for you to encamp in fire by night and by cloud by day, to show you the way in which you should go. Then the Lord heard the sound of your words, and he was angry and took an oath, saying, not one of these men, this evil generation, shall see the good land which I swore to give your fathers, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh. He shall see it, and to him and his sons I will give the land on which he has set foot, because he has followed the Lord fully. The Lord was angry with me also on your account, saying, not even you shall enter here. See, I find it kind of funny that he expounds this big thing about the tribe of Israel not obeying, and then this tiny little piece where he says, I can't go in either. All right. Anyone remember why Moses can't go in? Well, Moses claimed that he was the one, or kind of going on like he was the one who made the water come from the rock, and it wasn't from God. So that's why Moses can't enter. Yeah. Moses gets a little frustrated with God. Pays the punishment for it. All right, 38. Joshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall enter there. Encourage him, for he will cause Israel to inherit it. Moreover, your little ones, who you said will become prey, and your sons, who to this day have no knowledge of good or evil, shall enter there. And I shall give it to them, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn around and set out for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Then you said to me, we have sinned against the Lord. We will indeed go up and fight just as the Lord our God commanded us, and every man of you girded on his weapons of war, and regarded it as easy to go up into the hill country. And the Lord said to me, say to them, do not go up, nor fight, for I am not among you. Otherwise you will be defeated before your enemies. So I spoke to you, but you would not listen. Instead you rebelled against the command of the Lord, and acted presumptuously, and went up into the hill country. The Amorites who lived in that hill country came out against you, and chased you as bees do, and crushed you from Seir to Hormah. Then you returned and wept before the Lord, but the Lord did not listen to your voice, nor give ear to you. So you remained in Kadesh many days, and spent the days you spent there. Yes. Oh, presumptuously? That, assuming is really what it means. They assumed that they could easily go up there and... Oh, like Deuteronomy? Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Yeah. Well, can you bring up the map real fast? Yep. So they were at Kadesh. They went up. That's that little blue line. I'll show you. So they were there. They went up, and then they kind of retreated. So all these red X's are going to be the battles we're going to come into here pretty quick. This is the book of action. The book of action. So they're going to go up, and then they're going to have to retreat. And then this journey here is going to take about 40 years. Because God needs to kill off the older generation because they did not trust him that he was going to give them all this land here. They said that God took us out of Egypt just so the Amorites could kill us. So they're going to be punished. So here's the interesting part. It's like this journey here is like 11 days. And the Israelites took 40 years for an 11-day, 2-week journey. Oh, yeah. Well, Moses lost connection with the satellite. All right. Well, now we're going to move into chapter 2, but do we have any other questions? Oh, 46. I don't know exactly what you're looking for. All right, all right. All right. Chapter 2, verse 1. We turned and set out for the wilderness by way of the Red Sea. As the Lord spoke to me, and circled Mount Seir for many days. And the Lord spoke to me, saying, You have circled this mountain long enough. Now turn north and command the people, saying, You will pass through the territory of your brothers, of the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, and they will be afraid of you. So be very careful. Do not provoke them, for I will not give you any of their land, even as little as a single footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. Esau. Is this my northerner accent coming out? My Yankee? Yep. You shall buy food from them with money so that you may eat, and you shall also purchase water from them with money so that you may drink. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all that you have done. He has known your wanderings through this great wilderness these 40 years. The Lord your God has been with you. You have not lacked a thing. Yep. All right. Verse 8. Well, and then we should mention here that they still have all the gold and treasure and everything from Egypt when they left there. That's what they're using to purchase all this with. So God has already prepared them for this journey well in advance. The calf? Oh, the tabernacle? Yeah. They didn't use all of it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, at the end of it, Egypt was like free to a bad home, but you can't stay here. Yeah, Egypt was like closing time. Yep, yep. So we passed beyond our brothers, yeah, the sons of Esau, who lived in Seir away from Arabah, rode away from Elath and from Ezion Geber. And we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. Then the Lord said to me, do not harass Moab, nor provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar, the sons of Lot, or given it to Ar, the sons of Lot, as a possession. That place over in Utah. Yeah, that's just a name. And then kind of in the footnotes, because this is in parentheses for verse 10 here. The Emim lived there formerly, a people as great, numerous, and tall like the Anakim. So basically giants. They lived there formerly. But he's kind of setting up here what's about to happen. Like the Anakim, who are also regarded as Rephaim, but the Moabites call them Emim. Yep. The Horites formerly lived in Mount Seir, but the sons of Esau dispossessed them and destroyed them from before them and settled in their place, just as Israel did to the land of their possession, which the Lord gave to them. Oh, dispossessed means displaced, evicted. Well, evicted with a slide, like a lot of killing. So, verse 13 here. Now arise and cross over the brook Zered yourselves. So we crossed over the brook Zered. Now the time that it took for us to come from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed over the brook Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of men of war perished from within the camp that the Lord had sworn to them. Oh, so a brook is like a river. And if we go back to the map, if we can pull that up. So we are actually going to be right here right now. They just crossed this. Yeah, I was reading this and I'm like, man, this is so hard to keep track of. All right. So during the 38 years, moreover, the hand of the Lord was against them to destroy them from within the camp until they all perished. Talking about the fighting age men. Yes, Fred? Oh, sorry. 15. Yep. And this is talking about the older generation, and this is everyone who complained that the land of milk and honey. They would never be able to possess it because the people were too big, bad, and mean. So really, it's just they didn't trust God. hmm Well, and this is the generation of men who walked through the seabed when the sea was parted. hmm All right, verse 16. So it came about when all the men of war had finally perished from among the people that the Lord spoke to me, saying, Today you shall cross over the Ar, the border of Moab. When you come opposite the sons of Ammon, do not harass them nor provoke them, for I will not give you any of the land of the sons of Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the sons of Lot as a possession. 20 here, also in parentheses, so it's kind of like a side note. It is also regarded as the land of the Rephaim, for Rephaim formerly lived in it, but the Amorites call them Zamzummim, or Zatarans for short. Zamzummim sounds like a good band name, really. All right, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Anakim, but the Lord destroyed them before them, and they dispossessed them and settled in their place, just as he did for the sons of Esau, who lived in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them, and they dispossessed them and settled in their place even to this day. So this is kind of going through the history of who used to live in this land. Just all these people who were there died, and then they got replaced by new people. Because I see that look on your face, Bo. Oh yeah, but these are most of these big words in here are just names. If that makes it easier. So verse 23 here. And the Avim who lived in villages as far as Gaza, the Kephorim who came from Kaphor, who destroyed them and lived in their place. So that's the end of the parentheses or side notes that kind of gives us a history of what happened in this land before they're walking through it. Like something written in the margins of the text, just like a little aside. Verse 24. Arise, set out, and pass through the valley of Aron. Look, I have given Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land into your hand. Begin to take possession and contend with him in battle. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the peoples everywhere under the heavens, who, when they hear the report of you, will tremble and be in anguish because of you. So they're doing battle, and we're going to see it back on the map when we get to it. They're doing battle and they're winning because they're following the word of the Lord. They're winning these battles. So everyone, when they hear about the tribe of Israel, is like, oh no, they're coming to take our land. Verse 26 here. So I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass through your land. I will travel only on the highway. I will not turn aside to the right or to the left. You will sell me food for money so that I may eat, and give me water for my money so that I may drink. Only let me pass through on foot. Just as the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, and the Moabites who live in Ar did for me, until I cross over the Jordan into the land which the Lord our God has given to us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, was not willing for us to pass through his land, for the Lord your God hardened his spirit and made his heart obstinate, which means not agreeable. Let's see here. In order to deliver him into your hand, as he is today. The Lord said to me, See, I have begun to deliver Sihon and his land over to you. Begin to occupy, that you may possess his land. So this is going to be the first part of the land Israel's going to get. And then 32. Then Sihon with all of his people came out to meet us in the battle at Jahaz. The Lord our God delivered him over to us, and we defeated him with his sons and all of his people. So we captured all his cities at that time and utterly destroyed the men, women, and children of every city. We left no survivor. We took only the animals as our booty and spoils of the cities which we had captured. So they totally wiped his people out. No. Yep. Yeah, and if you can go to the map real quick, I'll show you where it's at. Not that I've seen mentioned. I could be wrong though. So the battle that they're talking about is right here. So they had just crossed over the Zered, crossed over the Aron River, and now they're at Jahaz. I feel like the map is really important for this because it's so hard to keep track of where they are because they're moving so rapidly now. Does that make sense? Because if you just read it, it's just like, oh, they did this, they did that, they did this. But you have no context for it unless you look at a map for what they actually did. Yeah, or the fact that they went in circles for 40 years. Yep. We're on 36. Oh. Yep. All right. From Aurora, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, from the city which is in the valley, even to Gilead, there was no city that was too high for us. The Lord our God delivered all over to us. Only you did not go near the land of the sons of Ammon, all along the river Jabbok, and the cities of the hill country, and wherever the Lord our God had commanded us. So they're finally listening. They're finally listening on where they should go and where they should not go. For the moment. All right. You have any? Oh. Yep. No worries. I figured I'd lump these three together because they are just a recap of the last two books. And this is the final book of the Pentateuch. Or Pentateuch. How would they say that there, Fred? How would they say the Pentateuch? Or is it? Oh, Pentateuch. Which is the first 5 books of the Bible. Which is all that the Jewish people read and believe of the Bible. Wait, am I correct in that? Or okay. Okay. So it's the Sadducees. Yep. So the Sadducees only believe the first 5 books. You're fine. And then the Pharisees believe the first 5 books and the prophets. Just to clarify that. Yeah. Which is why Paul is in the hot seat. He found a way to make enemies with everybody. Yeah. Yep. All right, chapter 3, verse 1. And my Bible says this is Conquests Recounted as the title of the chapter. Then we turned and went up the road Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, with all of his people came out to meet us in battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have delivered him and all his people into the hand your God, and you shall do him just as you did to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. You have your hand up? Oh, okay. So the Lord our God delivered Og, the king of Bashan, with all of his people into our hand, and we smote them until no survivor was left. We captured all of his cities at that time, and there was not a city in which we did not take from them. 60 cities, all the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All these were cities fortified with high walls and gates and bars, and beside a great many unwalled towns. We utterly destroyed them as we did Sihon the king of Heshbon, utterly destroying the men, women, and children of every city. But all the animals and the spoils of the cities we took as our booty. Again, like Fred said, this is very important. They're not leaving anybody left in these cities. They did take their walking food and all the other spoils and jams and preserves. Oh, yeah. Anything. All right. Verse 8. Thus we took the land at that time from the hand of the 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, from beyond the valley of Arnon to Mount Hernon. Sidonians call Hernon Syrian, and the Amorites call it Senir. So it's just different names for the specific mountain, according to the locals who live there. Verse 10. All the cities of the plateau, and all Gilead, and all Bashan, as far as Skelka and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og and Bashan. So this is just all locations and names for locations that they've taken over as conquest. 11. For only Og, king of Bashan, was left of the remnant of Rephaim, the giants. Behold, his bedstead was an iron bedstead, as in the Rabbah of the sons of Ammon. Its length was 9 cubits, and its width was 4 cubits by ordinary cubit. That's a big bed. How big is a cubit? 18 inches. That's a pretty big bed. Yeah. 9 cubits long. That's like, what, 16 feet roughly? 16-foot long bed. That's a pretty big bed. Verse 12. So we took possession of this land at that time, from Aroer, which is by the valley of Arnon, and half of the hill country of Gilead, and its cities. I gave to the Reubenites and to the Gadites. The rest of Gilead and all Bashan, the kingdom of Og, I gave to the half-tribe of Manasseh, all the region of Argob. Concerning all Bashan, it is called the land of Rephaim. Jair, the son of Manasseh, took all the region of Argob, as far as the border of the Geshurites and the How do you say that? Oh. Machanites? Alright. And the coconut macaroons, as it is called. Look, I mean, however you remember it. It's okay, they're dead. They're dead. Alright. And called it, that is, Bashan after his own name, Havoth Jair, as it is to this day. To Machir I gave Gilead, to the Reubenites and to the Gadites I gave from Gilead even as far as the valley Arnon, in the middle of the valley as a border, as far as the river Jabbok, the border of the sons of Armon, and Arabah also, with the Jordan as a border, from Chinnereth, even as far as the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, at the foot of the slopes of Pisgah in the east. So that he's just laying out the borders of the land that he's given to the Amalekites, to the Reubenites, to the Gadites. Yes. How much of this land is still theirs today? Yep. About a fifth of their land is left in their possession. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. All right. All right. All right. Verse 18. Then I commanded you at that time, saying, The Lord your God has given you this land to possess it, and all your valiant men shall cross over armed before your brothers, the sons of Israel. But your wives and your little ones and your livestock, I know that you have much livestock, shall remain in your cities which I have given to you, until the Lord gives you rest, or gives rest to your fellow countrymen as to you. They also possess the land which the Lord your God give them beyond the Jordan. Then you may return every man to his possession which I have given you. Verse 21 here. I commanded Joshua at that time, saying, Your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to these two kings. So the Lord shall do to all the kingdoms to which you are about to cross. Do not fear them, for the Lord your God is the one fighting for you. Like, I know this is the Old Testament, but how awesome is that for today? The Lord our God fights our battles for us. Isn't that just so comforting? All right, 23. I also pleaded with the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord God, you have begun to show your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do such works as mighty acts as yours? Let me, I pray, cross over and see the fair land that is beyond the Jordan. What good hill country in Lebanon. But the Lord was angry with me on your account and would not listen to me. And the Lord said to me, Enough, speak to me no more of this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and lift up your eyes to the west, to the north, to the south, and to the east, and see it with your own eyes. For you shall not cross over this Jordan. But charge Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go across at the head of his people, and he will give them as an inheritance the land which you will see. So we remain in the valley opposite of Beth Peor. So this is God telling Moses that he's still not going to be able to set foot in the promised land. Yep, 29. Oh, I was going to say the miracles never cease. You can judge a book by its smell. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So this is really just them going over everything God has done for them. That the Israelites, even though they've seen all these mighty works, have complained against the Lord. But now that they're finally following the Lord and the older generation has died off, now they're starting to get to the real action. But just as the video we played said, remembrance leads to repentance. And repentance to salvation, as James says over here. So, any questions? I know there's been a lot of cities and a lot of traveling. Well, I tap into my northern accent to butcher every single one of them. That's why it's Esau instead of Esau. What? Oh, gosh. Keith. Well, now we're going to start getting into some new stuff in chapter 4, but Deuteronomy can also be taken to mean second law. So this is more than just Moses restating everything that has happened. He's kind of rephrasing it essentially 40 years after the first law was given for a new generation. So he's rephrasing it so it's a little easier to understand for a newer generation. who's about to inherit their land and not be traveling by cloud and by fire and having to move the tabernacle whenever God says move the tabernacle. I mean, they're still going to be under the law, but soon they're going to have an actual, like, dedicated place for the tabernacle. And all the drama that creates. So you guys have any questions, any thoughts, concerns? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, yep. So as our sister said off of camera, Esau is Jacob's brother. Jacob, aka Israel, is taking from Esau again. You know, the first taking wasn't enough. We need a second taking. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but this time they're listening to God, so they're going to get it because God has set it aside for them. Well, if there's nothing else, we're going to go to our personal and private prayer requests. But just as a reminder, this Saturday there's a ride, if I'm not mistaken. What time is Kickstands up? 9? All right. We'll be here at the church at 9 this Saturday for a ride to support the food pantry. And it's $25 per vehicle, I believe. All right. And all proceeds go to benefit the food pantry. And you can come in a car if you want, or a motorcycle, or whatever you want to be on. All right. Food and monetary donations are accepted. And that's this Saturday. And then this Sunday we have regular Bible service at 11 and Celebrate Recovery at 4. And then this coming next Wednesday. And no, we'll be back in Deuteronomy. All right. All right, later, guys.